Okay, so this was the Smart About Slopes sheet that we did in class. Now, it's given us these graphs with the lines on it, and it's asking us to simply find the slope. So this does take a few steps. My suggestion is to step it out, write down all your information that you're getting, and focus on what you do know. Okay, so my first step is I'm going to find some points on this graph that I know for sure. So how I'm going to be able to know them for sure is where they actually intersect really nicely. Rusty, just getting comfy. They intersect really nicely. Okay, so I'm going to pick, let's go with this one here. Okay, so I'm going to pick that point there. So that's -2, 1 as my first point. And then I'm going to pick this point here. Okay. Now, can you see how they really nicely intersect those lines? I'm not hitting them at a point that's, you know, a midway. I can see exactly what points they are on the graph. Okay, so now remembering again that I'm a rise over run. Okay, so let's look at, I'm going across 1, 2, 3, so going across 3, change my pen again, across 3, so that's my run. Okay, and how many did I go up? I went up 1, 2, 3, up 3. So that's my rise. Now, the important thing to remember is that you're making a right angled triangle. Okay, you're not trying to make some weird, like obtuse, acute. It has to be a right angled triangle. That's the key. All right, so you want 2 straight lines that intersect. So see here, I've got 2 straight lines, my rise and my run. You could have also taken these 2 lines, just you need to make a right angled triangle. Okay, so I've got my rise and my run figured out. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to plug them into my equation. So rise over run is equal to, so my rise was 3 and my run was also 3. Okay, now remember that 3 over 3 is equal to 1, because what it actually is, so 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1. Same as being written 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1. Or if I had 3 things and I want to give them to evenly between 3 people, each person is going to get 1 thing. Okay? Maths has a lot of language that means the same thing. So make sure that you're really using it correctly. Okay, so let's look at this second graph now. Again, my first step is to pick some nice points on here. I'm going to pick that one, and I'm going to pick this one because it looks like it intersects. Awesome. Okay, so again, right angle triangle. And I'm going to draw my triangle like this. This is going to be my triangle that I'm working with. Okay, so I've got, what have I got here? I've got a rise, but my rise is actually negative on this. It's actually, I've gone down, if you can see that. So I've gone down, so I need to, it's actually a negative rise. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's actually -4 because I've gone down. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it started at 4, but I've gone down to 0, so -4. All right, and then I'm going across 1, 2, 3, 4. So +4 because I've moved from my left to my right and I've gone from up to down, essentially. Okay, again, that's my rise and that's my run. So again, my formula, rise over run. My rise was -4 over a run of 4. Now remember, -4 over 4 is equal to -1. If you actually look at this graph overall, you can see that it does actually have a negative slope. So the further I increase my x, my y decreases. Okay, so it's a negative graph, so my gradient should be a negative number. So it's -1. This first graph here is positive, so you can see that I've got a positive gradient. Okay, let's look at graph 3 now. Remember, my first step is to find those 2 points on my graph. So I'm going to go with this point here and this point here. Okay, so let's look at it. So my rise, I've gone 1, 2, 3 up. So I've got a rise of 3. And then I've got a run of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So a run of 7. Let's double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6, sorry. A run of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh my golly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Beautiful. Okay, so a rise of 3, a run of 6. Again, it's rise over run. Write it down, remind yourself, make sure that you're subbing in the correct values in the right place. So I had a rise of 3 and a run of 6. Now, 3 over 6, we know that this isn't the simplest fraction that we can get. So what would be 3 over 6 in a simpler form? So I know that 3 goes into 3 once, and that 3 goes into 6 twice. So my fraction will be half. So 1 over 2, got a rise of 1. So for every 1 I go up, I go over 2. Every 1 I go up, I go over 2. That's what rise over run is talking about. So can we sort of see that that makes sense if we compare these two graphs, because they've got the same intervals on their x and y axis. This line isn't as steep as this one. So this one has a gradient of 1, positive 1. This one has a gradient of positive 1/2. So this one's a bit shallower and this one's steeper. All right, so for every 1 that this one goes up, it goes across 1, up 1, across 1. So this one goes up 1, across 2, up 1, across 2. So make a few predictions about what you think it might look like if it had a gradient greater than 1. So is it going to be steeper or shallower? Okay, so if it's greater than 1, it is going to be steeper than this one. And if it's less than 1/2, it's going to be shallower. Okay, so what it means is, like, if it was 1 over 4, it's going to go up 1 and across 4, so it's going to be shallower. All right, let's have a look at the next one. I'm going to take this one here. This might be my last one that I look at for this video. All right. So again, first step I'm going to do is to pick 2 points. I'm going to pick this point here and this point here. So remembering rise over run is my formula. So what's my rise? So to get from this point on the left to my point on my right, I've actually gone down. So it's 1, 2, 3. So -3 because I've gone down. Remember, this is my right angle triangle that I'm making. So you need to be careful about what the gradient is, if there's a negative in there or not. And as you can see, to get from this point, I've had to go down 3, so it'll be -3. And then I've gone, so that's my rise. And my run is 1. So run of 1. Okay, so rise over run, I've got a -3 over 1. Now remember, anything over 1, so 1 is actually equal to 1 over 1. 2 is actually equal to 2 over 1. So negative 3 over 1 is going to be equal to negative 3. All right, and as you can see, we have got a negative gradient, just like we did in our second one here. Okay, so negative. So as our x increases, our y decreases. So a gradient of negative 3. And as you can see, that is a steeper line than this gradient of negative 1. All right, so from this video, we're going to move on and start looking at using 2 points to find the gradient of a graph.